Mike Smith getting all from West Coast as he clings to the lead from Gunnabara. IREP is third on the inside. Cameron is fourth. It is West Coast, and he keeps on rolling. And West Coast goes wire to wire. It's the Travers.
Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Racecourse, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com. And Woodbine Racetrack, pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border.
Friday, July 13th, and I said on the Handicappers Report, lucky Friday the 13th. How can it be anything but, as we are kicking off our coverage live from the Saratoga backstretch on a beautiful morning. And as you can see, the horses are working out. They're loving it, and we're loving it too, as we're a week away from opening day. Kicking things off, we'll be here all weekend long as well, and then opening day next Friday. This first edition of Racing Across America. Happy to be joined a little bit later by Nancy Holthus from Indiana Grand. They have a great card tomorrow. I wanted to preview that. Indiana Oaks, Indiana Derby, and a good card of supporting stakes races. So Nancy Holthus via phone a little bit later. But our very first live guest from 2018, wanted to invite in our friend Tom Amello. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Good morning, racing fans. It's great to be on the backstretch. And as you know, it's a shorter hike for me than it used to be, from Union Ave to the Horseshoe, if you will. It's great.
And let's speak about that a little bit. I had that at the top of the segment because I wanted you to push the B&B a little bit, and then we'll get into the horses. But just because it's as convenient as could be, and if people are thinking staycation in the off season or the on season, they want to come up and stay, or they know somebody who's coming to the track, Brunswick B&B right across, literally right across the street, and the gentleman innkeeper right to my right.
Graduated from culinary school, and now we added that to the resume. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you know anybody who needs a room at the track, we're one of the few places that don't stick to minimums, so we've got some open rooms. And if you pay attention, we've got a fall special with a TrackFacts promo code for you, so we'll talk about that a little later on. But thank you for the push. I'll be bringing omelets and muffins to this table throughout the meet just to keep you guys happy. But it's great to be able to sit here with you and Sully and get the occasional stop in and talk to racing fans again. This is a great time of the year. You know, we live by the equine calendar, and so this is
Christmas for us comes in the summer.
Christmas for us comes in the summer, and there's always lots to talk about. There's the usual suspects, the new guys, the new horses. Everybody wants Justify to come here. Well, he's got things to recover from, so there's just lots to talk about, lots to do. And this is the greatest venue at which to do it.
It's certainly always great to be back in Saratoga, and to come back day one on a day like this just makes it all the more exciting.
I will say this, though. I've been rooting for rain because I want the rain in July early because, the yin and yang of weather. I'd like to keep bottle this for the next 50 days.
And I was talking with Steve Bick on the radio on Wednesday, and we were kind of talking about that subject in that, the early summer has been so nice. Can we keep it going? But the spring, the late winter and spring were so bad. And if you look at weather generally, by the end of the year, it all evens out and hits the averages. So I'm hoping that wet weather early, I'm hoping we average out in the summer, and we continue with this.
I had enough snow in my parking lot. We don't need any more. Anyhow, so let's talk this meet.
And I'll just touch one more on the Brunswick, because you have a great website. People can go visit that and
absolutely.
see shots of that.
Check out the rooms, check out the specials. We appreciate it. Thank
And
you.
we're watching ourselves here, but I sent in some pictures from the website, so the folks at home got some shots of the dining room and a guest room in the front of the building and whatnot. And as I say, right across the street, short walk from the Racing Museum too. I'm amazed at the number of people who you talk to who have never been to the Racing Museum.
Absolutely, and it's not that they don't try, and it's not that they don't run programs. It's that I think museum might be might be the word.
But if you're a racing fan,
if you're a racing fan, it's a must.
There's some nice hands-on kind of things.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So,
by the way, let's talk about it since you mentioned the race. Foal Patrol has been a tremendous hit, and I think that's the kind of program that can draw young people, kids, to the equine athlete, and so. I'm delighted and happy that they've come up with that program.
And if you aren't familiar, Foal Patrol, they came up with it, I guess it was the beginning of the year. They had the press conference, and what they did was they found a number of mayors in foal and put cameras in their stalls, and you were able to follow the progress and then see the birth of a thoroughbred.
Absolutely.
And it was all put together in conjunction with the Racing Museum and John Hendricks and Mary Lou Whitney and some others as well. As you say, it was a big success.
Yeah, we really don't follow from foal to the gate, and there's so much that goes into getting the horses to the gate. Lucky people get up here early to watch the workouts on the Maine or the workouts at Oklahoma, which I prefer, and I think there you get a true sense of how people in the game nurture these equine athletes and care for them. And so I think anybody and everybody should avail themselves the opportunity, and then you follow it up, polish it off with a stop at the museum for context.
All right, let's talk some horses. You're going to be doing some handicapping for us during the season too, right?
What I'll be doing is once a week a blog that'll be posted on the website, and we'll be doing previews and recap of stakes races coming up. It's a busy weekend, opening weekend always. You get the babies, you get the Lake George, the Diana, and you get our Oaks. So every weekend is stakes heavy, which is good, and we'll be talking about that. We'll also have some horses to watch and some features. I still know some guys in the game who have info, and we'll try to share that info with folks, because I think our job is to get people to feel better putting money in the window, isn't it?
Yeah. And the track fact sheet that'll be for sale again this year. How long have you been doing the track facts?
Since '89, 1989. I'm a fixture of the carnival that keeps getting less like a carnival. Yeah. Now we've been doing that for a long time, and it's always fun, and it's kind of a wild thing because there are about 8 million places you can get picks. But we're part of it. We're on track, and we enjoy it, and we appreciate the opportunity.
And I will say, the longer you do it, I think the more reliable you become, because there are some trends, and there are people to watch up here. Owners are important up here in a way that I think they aren't at a lot of other tracks. Certainly the trainers and the jockeys. So the longer you're plugged in, I think as I say, the more reliable you are.
Are you saying I'm old?
Well, you and me both, because I was thinking of me, but
plugged in. I need to be plugged in.
Speaking of that, how did you get into the game?
Oh, that's a quick and easy one. My father and my uncle were New York punters, and they took me to the track, and I can even tell you that they took me out of high school once to really.
I like this story already.
Oh my God! Well, they had a horse they followed, and they shipped out to Laurel, and there wasn't no OTB back then. So they took me out of high school, and we made the trip to Laurel. And of course the horse lost, right? But there's more to the story, and this is the truth, folks. So we're back 2-3 weeks later. My father gets a phone call from my uncle. He says, "Did you bet the horse?" My father says, "Did he run?" The horse run. He wins. My father says to my uncle, "Did you bet a couple for me?" My uncle says, "Well, I wasn't sure if you'd wanted me to." My father's on the phone and said, "I drove to Laurel with you for this horse. You don't put $2 on this horse for me?" So the horse paid $36, and they didn't talk for a long time. But they used to keep results charts. They were horse for course guys, And so every once in a while they'd feed me horses. In the 80s, I put their stuff in a database. I was Jim Mazur before Jim Mazur, if you will, but not as sophisticated, seriously.
Yeah.
And so somebody said to me once, geez, you have all this information. Why don't you go up to the track? So I did. And in all honesty, this started with me trying to sell information that wasn't in the form because they didn't have the career box then.
Yeah.
It was all the 24th day meet, the horse for the course. So on opening day, my first year here, they had 2 maiden races and a jump race out of 9. So I only had 6 races where I had information. I had 5 top winners because Quick Call ran, and it was all, right? But a guy comes up to me, he says, where are the other races? I said, that's not what, I didn't want to pick. I wanted to give you so long story short, I ended up having to pick the whole card. And what I did is I handicapped, but also put the horse for course information in there. So it's kind of a funny story, but it evolved into what it is. And what really helped is, when Jim Barber gave me a chance to sit at this table back in the day. So, yeah, it's the best thing that ever happened to me outside of my career, because I have met nothing but wonderful people in this game.
Yeah,
and I include you in that thing, and not just, but really, no degenerates, just hardworking, fun people.
And that's funny that you say that, because I think for a lot of people outside the game, even in the game, they think of the guy in the raincoat with the cigar, just the OTV player doesn't make it to the track, and it is completely different. Particularly in the summer when you walk around here, because being on the network, people recognize you and come up, and they're nice and they're smart, and for a lot of people, it's the same reason I got into the game. They are smart, and I like the mental challenge. I like the puzzle, trying to solve the puzzle. They open the gate a minute and a half later, did you solve correctly or not? And I think there are a lot of people, particularly the contest, like guys like Paul Matisse,
I know,
just a whip smart kind of guy.
You bet
there are
your
a lot
life.
of those contest players are plugged in a different way, but it makes you kind of sit back and marvel.
I think the best of the best are capable of juggling so many things in their head at the same time. Now, I am not capable of that. I have my limitations. But the really good contest players and the professional gamblers, they remember, they assess and evaluate risk, and they cover everything they can cover.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
All right, let's talk some horses, and I'm going to pull out your pamphlet to begin with.
Thank you.
Playing the Odds, the tote board as gateway to the game, and I think that there's actually the guys in the control room have a shot of the cover.
Nice.
And I bring it out because you and I have talked about it before. I think you've talked about it sitting here before, but I bring it out because I think it's a great kind of strategy at Saratoga, because it's simple for people. It's a gateway to the game is a great way to put it. You can kind of get in. You've kind of broken down the tote board, and I agree that it's an interesting way to get involved, because groupthink, there's the science of groupthink. I've read things like, you see those jars of marbles,
Sure.
Guess how many marbles, and they'll take 1,000 people and you average it out, and they come pretty close to how many marbles are in there. So the more people you get looking at a problem, the closer you get to the solution, and that's exactly what the odds board is.
Well, it's interesting, and thank you for bringing that up. The bottom line for me is the odds board tells everybody on the track what type of race it is. It's either a one-horse race, 4 to 5, and then the next horse is 6 to 1. It's either a 2-horse race, 2 horses 2 to 1 or less. It's either what I call a balanced race, a favorite at 9 to 5, 8 to 5, a second choice at 5 to 2, and then a clear third choice. And then there's the races we get here all the time, 3 horses or 4 horses, 5 to 2, 3 to 1. So the interpretation of that is everybody who thinks they're smart says it's a one-horse race. So you either got to be smart with them or think you're smarter against them. Now they lose, but they win far more than their fair share. And so I've always felt that when we take a new person to the track and hand them the track program or past performances and on race day, try to explain to them what is about to happen before the race as a means to predict the race, it's chaos. It's a learning curve that starts too high up on the ladder. So I say, and I've been preaching this for a while in a lot of seminars, is that if you can make someone understand that the determination of the kind of race it is by the odds board can tell you how to play that particular race. For example, the heavy favorite, the most simplest way to play it, if you don't know anything, is you give the race to the favorite and you bet exactas with long shots underneath them. That's because you can take a 4 to 5 and turn them into a 6 to 1 if the second and third choices run out. And that happens quite often. The other thing with that race, you can take the 4 to 5 shot and put them second over as many as you want, because they run second more than they win. So I mean, it's just a strategy for understanding. And I honestly think we sometimes get too caught up in the process of working our way through the form and minimize the process of making a good bet.
Yeah, well, that's something that I think everybody talks about. Yeah. We concentrate far too much on the handicapping, which is important, but if you're looking to make money, it's equal with good betting and kind of figuring out how to do that. And there's not enough time and energy and conversation about that.
Absolutely. Let's say just one other thing. You know, I think last year when I sat here with you, we talked about how NBC's coverage has changed the presentation of the odds board from post position to shortest price horse or favorite to long shot. How about this? Okay. 80% here, because you got big fields, 80% of the winners are among the first 4 or 5 choices. Okay? So a new person to the track could just draw a line and focus on the first 4 or 5 and almost always be on live horses. That's number one. The second thing, and this is not my idea, but I heard someone talk about it, is okay, so if you sort them from favorite to long shot and use your handicapping expertise to decide which of the first 3 or 4 you really like and can key on based on your information. And then this idea, once you draw the line, you find the best looking horse of the long prices. I mean, so now you say, okay, I'm going to focus here, and then I'm going to see what I can find. And if you can't find anything, then you have to stay here.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a different way of managing the odds board and making a ticket that you might be able to cash.
And you cover a lot of that.
We cover a lot of that.
Can people still pick up the...
Absolutely. It's TrackFacts. Give me a reach out. We're there.
Playing the odds. The tote board is Gateway.
You're very
to
kind.
the game.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, I think because I totally agree with the title, Gateway to the Game. As they say, you get a lot of new folks up here, and it's just an easy way to kind of get involved.
Absolutely.
And then from that, they cash a few tickets, and then they jump into my angle of, I want to try to solve the puzzle.
Absolutely. I'm going to say something like that, and it doesn't have to be that, but it's almost you got to get a hook into the cheek to get them to understand or attack that high learning curve. You want to talk trainers?
Yeah, bring us. You brought some notes, so hit on some of the other things people should think about during the meet.
You know, the interesting thing, I mean, this is a trainer's meet. We love the horses, but it's a trainer's meet. And the trainers decide where and when they're going to run a horse, and then the horse decides if he's going to run today. Okay? So just a couple of stats. Last year, 265 different trainers started horses here. 154 didn't make a win. 154 were on the duck. So that's nearly 60% and now this is not anything that is disparaging a trainer. It's about the context of the horses and the level of competition. So 154 went over, and a total of 198 either didn't win a race or managed to get 1 win. So you're talking 72% of the guys and gals who brought horses here didn't get a win. If you want to, if you want to be on the live horses, you got to focus on the 15%, and it's almost like the 80-20 rule. 80% of the races will be run by less than 20% of the trainers who run horses. We know who most of them are, and every year 1 or 2 get the right conditions for the horses they have in the barn. They have a healthy barn, and they may get to double figures and have a great meet. It's a trainer's meet first, and then focus on the horse.
Jockeys too. I think you get the 4 or 5 jockeys, 6 jockeys who are going to win the majority in a similar fashion to the trainers, and then you combine up the top jockey and the top trainer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a top horse.
You know, with jockeys, I think when a low percentage trainer or a lesser known trainer has got the top jockey riding, you got to ask yourself why this agent put his jock. Why this agent's riding this horse? Because that's what they do. The agent rides the horse. The other thing that I think we have to talk about here is the whole notion of juveniles and 2-year-olds. And I think that's the most difficult field, no matter how much you look at pedigree, no matter how fast they were as 2-year-olds in training. To me, when I'm handicapping a juvenile race, it's always about the number of juveniles in the field. If it's a field of 8 and there are 6 first-time starters, I think a first-time starter is the most likely winner. I'm not sure which one. But if a first-time starter is meeting a field of 6 or 7 experienced horses, unless you got a real angle or a line on that debut runner, the experienced horses are more likely to win. And last year when I tracked it, it goes about 1 in 10. 1 in 10 firsters actually wins here. They ran close to 400, 38, 39, 1. So I'm not good enough. I'm just not sharp enough to get the right firster often enough. And some of those firsters that win are Pletchers at 2 to 5, 6 to 5, very short prices. So it's tough to have a positive ROI. I think they're great to watch.
I like the Betterman. I like the firsters, and I mentioned earlier on the handicappers report because there was one in today down at Belmont that I had as a firster last year, Saratoga Treasure at 20 to 1. So I managed to get one of the ones that made it worthwhile. But I like it because of what you said earlier, the way you handicapped with TrackFacts early on. You were trying to bring to the better things that weren't on the page.
Right.
And that's what I like about the 2-year-old races. You kind of have to look up the pedigree and look
It's
up
work.
the workout at the 2-year-old sale and keep track of, who were, and I'll toss one out there. It's always fun every year to see the sires, the brand new sires who get off to a good start. And by the time we get to Saratoga, they've had a couple of months where they're maybe tipping their hand a little bit. But Saratoga starts to really define it, but you can still get some value. Golden Sense to me is one people should keep their eyes on. He's gotten off to kind of a nice start so far, and so if you see any firsters by Golden Sense show up here in a little bit of a price, maybe that's something to tuck in your back pocket.
And I say this every year I get an opportunity. Whenever a horse opens up at 2 to 5, and let's say I didn't even pick them. This is the international good thing that nobody talked to me about. I somehow am not in that loop, if you will, of extra live debut runners. I want to offer a couple things. Because I live close, I've been able to get over the Oklahoma much more these days. And it's very interesting. Early on in the meet, it's a lot of 2-year-olds. And my understanding from the guys who are clogging over there is there really haven't been that many workers here in terms of volume, given that we're this close to opening day. And I'm curious because they're raising the question about how solid the horses who have been based here will be early on in the meet, and whether or not horses shipping in, last race at Belmont or working and stable at Belmont or Churchill, may have a physical edge. Also, they tell me there's not that many gate workers, and I find that interesting. Yeah. And you can check for yourself because the works are online. You can go to equibase.com. You get the trainer and the workout. And Wayne Lukas has a lot of horses here this year. That's interesting to me because I can't catch. I said it. If Wayne Lukas was a pandemic disease, I couldn't catch it. I can never catch his horses. Man's a great trainer, and he's just a hero in the game.
If you show up at the races with a kid, and Wayne Lukas has a horse in the race, go stand by the paddock, because I don't know if he still does it, but there was a while there where if one of his horses won, at least up here at Saratoga, he'd walk into the paddock and there was an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old there. Come on and get your picture taken.
That's cool. That's good. It's good for the game.
Absolutely. All right, before we move on, any other angles or tips or thoughts that people can hang on to throughout the meet?
I think that you got to go through the card and then go to what you think are second look horses. Horses who first time through, you say, no, I don't think they're contender. But this is a race meet where trainer intention is extremely important. And the difficulty is deciphering what a sneaky good performance, non-winning performance was, be it stuck on the rail, wide, at the wrong distance, on the wrong surface, and so on. So we sometimes are very quick to go through the PPs and eliminate horses, but I always try to take a second look at horses who didn't make my top 3, if you will, and see if there's someone there I either got to include on the bottom or who might be able to roll over them late.
And I'll toss out, going back to what we talked about before, owners, trainers, jockeys who do well at the meet, owners who maybe point to the meet. And over the years, for me, I've been tied into Jonathan Shepard over the years, but a lot of the Shepard horses that made me money were Augustin stable horses, who have kind of split out to other trainers now. So keep your eyes open. Graham Motion, I think Michael Matz, a couple other trainers with Augustin runners. But I think Augustin points for this meet, and the angle that was always big for me with Shepard was they would have a race somewhere in the Mid-Atlantic, Maryland or Delaware, that was just so-so, and then they come up here and go off at 10 or 20 to 1 because of that so-so race. But again, that's something you follow the races long enough, you kind of realize that, and you can look, and that's not the horse that's going to jump out at you, but it's like, oh, okay, that 4th place finish down at Delaware is going to bode well here.
I asked Mr. Shepard many years ago why most of his horses come from the clouds, which makes them harder to pick. You know, because they don't run off and win by 10 lengths. They're coming hard late at big prices, getting your heart thumping. And by the way, he's last I looked, he was one of the leading steeplechase guys this year.
Oh, well, no surprise.
Yeah, no surprise, but that's it.
I'd like to come from the cloud types, though, because the horse that got me into, everybody has a horse that when they started before go was mine. So, speaking of come from the cloud. All right, before we let you go, Tom, got to promo our seminars coming up. A couple of Tuesdays. Horses, History, and Handicapping. It's sponsored by Thoroughfan. There'll be a Tuesday, July 31st. Maggie Wolfendale will be the guest. August 14th, another Tuesday, Bruno DiGiulio talking some workouts, but you and I will be kind of moderating as well. You've done it in the past, so fill us in a little bit.
Barry Lafredo and Jeff Shahanian are affiliated with the Lifelong Adult Learning Center at Empire College, and they've run this Triple H, History, Health, and Horses program for the last 3 years, and it's had various iterations, if you will. Well, this year there are 2 sessions. I think it's fantastic, a fantastic opportunity to meet and listen to Maggie Wolfendale and have opportunity to ask her questions about how she says what she says and how she does what she does. I think that's fantastic. And Bruno DiGiulio, you can find him at brunowiththeworks.com. He's written a book on workouts. He's a private clocker. And I think there's nothing more mystifying in the PPs than the workouts, because what we know is they worked, and what we know is the time they worked, sorta, and that's what we're left to. And I think private clockers have an awful lot to share about how the handicappers should interpret the works on the page, especially if you're not subscribing to a service. So I think it'll be tremendously informative. It's a reasonable price. It's at the Embassy Suites, which you know, they do a nice job of hosting these events, and they're very supportive of Thoroughfan and of Saratoga Racing. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And you and I will be the pretty faces
I don't know what Maggie
on the fringes of it. So it's going to be fun.
So again, Maggie Wolfendale, Bruno DiGiulio. the 31st, July 31st, Maggie, and the 14th of August, Bruno. 7 to 9, as you say, at the Embassy Suites. We will remind you as we get closer to those. Horses, History, and Handicapping, sponsored by Thoroughfan, and again, presented by the Academy for Lifelong Learning. Should be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep.
Always fun up here at Saratoga. I said when I had Sully on here earlier, we were talking about how much fun it is and being at Saratoga and great racing and whatnot. I always say what makes this place special is outside the fences, in that the whole community is so plugged in, and we saw that last night.
Sure.
I didn't get a chance to go down, but I saw the video today of the rally for Justify. It was jam-packed. Thursday evening downtown, a week and a half before the meet starts, and the place is jammed.
Well, they're also, I think they're running a terrific program, Call to the Post, on the 19th. The entire city is devoting a fundraiser that is previewing what is the action of the meets. I think that's going to be terrific too.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. Tom, appreciate your visit. Again, folks can check out your blog on CapitalOTV.com throughout the season. We'll certainly plug you back in here before the meet winds up. And again, we tell people if you want to come up during the meet or during the off season, Tom, of course, and family run the Brunswick B&B, which is right across the street. You couldn't be more convenient. Again, nice website. Go check it out. It is beautiful outside and beautiful inside as well. And it sounds like you've stepped up the breakfast with the professional chef now.
Well, we thank you very much. Appreciate the push, and we want everybody to have a great, safe, profitable meet.
Some days you hang out on the porch after the people walking down Union say
hello? I kind of nod, says, if you were staying here, you'd be home already.
That's a great, sit out on the porch and just say that. There's always the PR for the gentleman and people like that.
It's such a great game because you've got the anticipation of whatever your day is going to be, and then you've got those moments of reflection as you transition back to your whatever you're doing, and only in your head is your experience for the day. But for most folks, it's a mutual experience. You're with your friends, you're with your family, and it's great fun.
You tipped something off and we got to go, but I'll ask you quickly if you agree with me, because I have said this for years. You walk out and people toss that racing form in the bin and when they walk out. And I say, if you're interested in the game, you want to learn the game, don't toss that racing form, because now you know who won. Go back and reverse engineer and figure out what you missed. That's the best way to learn the game, to me. After the races are over, to go back and the puzzle's been solved, figure out how to put the pieces together correctly next time.
I agree wholeheartedly, but that's an extra session of work. And
at a time of day at Saratoga where maybe...
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's an extra, but that's the only way to really grow in the game. You got to know where you where and when you zigged when you should have zagged. And, well, let's put it this way. I think you could run a survey of people coming through. You keep records? You keep betting records? And the answer for most people would be no, and you'd find that the folks who are somewhat successful actually know how much they put through the windows and how often we all lose. We all lose more than we win. But it's the guys who
I admit I don't do that the way I should, because if you're keeping good records, you're also figuring out what kinds of races you're strong in.
Absolutely.
And that's the one that I don't do.
We'll keep talking about this. There we go.
That's the fun of the handicapping game. We've been at it a long time, and there's still puzzles to be solved and whatnot. Tom, again, appreciate the visit.
Well, thank you very much.
We will head to a break. When we come back, Nancy Holthus, Indiana Grand, again tomorrow, Indiana Derby, Indiana Oaks, a great supporting card of stakes races as well. All that right after this. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much.
Dirty windows? Don't do it yourself. Call Clean Image, your window cleaning professionals, and enhance the look of your business or home without the worry. Clean Image pledges nothing less than 100% customer satisfaction. It's guaranteed. Homes, offices, bed and breakfast, vacation homes, and more. Clean Image has cleaned them all. Carpet and floor cleaning, pressure washing, and janitorial services are also available. Call today, 446-1397. That's 446-1397. Online at clean-image.net.
You know and make better decisions. better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
I'm Brian Nadeau. Join me for my new show, Saturdays at the Spa, on OTB TV. I'll be live on the backstretch talking to some of the top trainers, jockeys, and racing personalities here in Saratoga. So join me right here at 10 a.m. each and every Saturday during the Saratoga Meet on the OTB TV network.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Friday morning. Unfortunately, we are still working the kinks out. We just moved in to our new set, and the phone line just could not make contact with Nancy Holthus. So I will go through some of the Indiana Grand action for tomorrow. Again, a really nice card highlighted by the Indiana Derby. The Indiana Derby, 9 horses entered, and it's an interesting field. There are a couple of nice horses in here that are going to be worth watching, and I think those are highlighted by King Zachary. Going to take a look at the Matt Win from June 16th. King Zachary is going to be the number 4 horse here. Wins at 12-1. Not the rank outsider, but pretty close. There was a 13-1 shot in the 6-horse field. Axeman, the number 7, runs third as the 1-2 favorite, the Bob Baffert trainee. But King Zachary gets it done for Dale Romans. This was career start number 6, win number 3, had won an optional claimer in the race just before that, but that had been on a sloppy track, so I had to prove it on a dry track. He did in the Matt Win. So King Zachary now 3 for 6. And again, an interesting entrant in the Indiana Derby, the Grade 3 tomorrow, $500,000. Don't forget, things kick off at Indiana Grand at about 5:30 tomorrow. So this Indiana Derby goes off at about 9:48 Saturday night. But it'll be fun with the field of 9. Trigger Warning had won 2 starts back at Presque Isle in the Tom Ridge, but followed it up in the Ohio Derby last time, running 3rd behind Core Beliefs and Lone Sailor. So Trigger Warning is interesting. Blame the Rider comes in for O'Neill and Redham Racing. Always have to pay attention to the Southern California shippers from that crew. Dark Vader ran 3rd and a close-up 3rd in the Easy Goer last time at Belmont. I'm not quite sure what to make of that race yet, so I'm not necessarily giving Peter Urton's Dark Vader a checkmark bonus out of that close-up 3rd in the Easy Goer. Axelrod, another Southern California invader. Title Ready comes in for Steve Asmussen. Went off at 15-1 in the Ohio Derby. Fairly close-up 4th, was just behind Trigger Warning in there, and had a little buzz going into that Ohio Derby. Just before that, it run 2nd in the Sir Barton behind Axeman. So Title Ready may be interesting at a little bit of a price, 12-1 on the morning line. And Funny Duck won the Pat Day Mile at 39-1. That was over a sloppy track, though. And like King Zachary, who had won the previous start on a sloppy track, Funny Duck had to kind of validate that on a dry track. Well, he came back in the Matt Win and ran a well-beaten 4th. So maybe Funny Duck, maybe the name fits, and an off-track would help him on Saturday. But it looks like it goes through King Zachary in the Indiana Derby. Also, the Indiana Oaks on the card on Saturday. Talk Veuve to me looks like the one to beat. Even money on the morning line. We will go back and look at the Acorn Belmont on June 9th. Talk Veuve to me is the number 7 horse, running 2nd to number 3, Monomoy Girl. And a good 2nd to Monomoy Girl is something to consider flattery for Talk Veuve to me. Comes in with only 4 career starts, a win, and 3 second-place finishes. Again, highlighted by this 2nd to the very talented Monomoy Girl. Looks like Talk Veuve to me will be the favorite. But, again, another interesting field. Molecules to me is interesting. 2 wins and a close-up 2nd in 3 career starts, all at Indiana Grand. The numbers are just significantly light, though. But we're looking at 30-1 on the morning line, and it's not unusual to see these kind of hometown horses at least get in and make a little noise and maybe hit the board at prices in these kind of races. So as I say, Molecules is interesting. Tommy Amos brings in Hainesfest, a couple of second-place finishes most recently, and Tommy Amos at Indiana Grand is having a phenomenal meet, so you have to pay attention to him. Harbor Lights for Steve Asmussen, won an optional claim or 2 back at Oaklawn, 6th in the Fantasy, hasn't been seen since that mid-April race, but it's Steve Asmussen with a nice little talented 3-year-old filly that has shown some flashes, so it wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a breakout potentially there. And Skeptic comes in off a couple of wins, Keeneland and Churchill most recently, but steps into Stakes Company with the potential to make some noise in here as well. But again, like King Zachary in the Derby, in the Oaks, it does look like it's going to go through Talk Veuve to me. In the on the undercard, the Schaefer was intriguing to me. The Schaefer for 3-year-olds and older, going 1 mile and 70, $100,000 up for grabs. And this one is interesting because it pits in a field of 7, Seeking the Soul and Looking at Lee. Both coming off poor performances, however. But I'm going to go back to the Clark last November. Take a look at Seeking the Soul, the number 2 horse, winning at 7-1. The Dallas Stewart trainee strung a couple together, a couple of triple-digit buyers, the Keeneland optional claimer in October, and then this Clark win in November. Off of that, went into the Pegasus Classic down at Gulfstream in January. A well-beaten 5th in there, so comes in with a little bit of a knock off of that Pegasus. Looking at Lee also, 2 starts back at Churchill, won an optional claimer, but was just toasted, 8th by 21 lengths in the Stephen Foster last time out. So again, these are 2 nice millionaires showing up in the Schaefer for $100,000, but both coming off poor efforts. So they'll be interesting to see and add some intrigue to that race. Pioneer Spirit goes in for Brad Cox and has a lot of early speed in a race where maybe there isn't too much other early speed. So at a price, Pioneer Spirit might be interesting in there as well. And Schaefer, the 5th race that'll go off at about 7:24. Again, an evening card at Indiana Grand tomorrow. Keep your eyes on that here on the network. Also tomorrow out at Los Alamitos, the Los Al Derby Grade 3 event for $150,000. This has been kind of a fun race over the past few years. 1 1/8 on that kind of tight-turned Los Alamitos strip. There's only a field of 5 in here, but boy, I think it's an interesting field of 5. Axeman for Bob Baffert, who again was beaten in that Matt win at 1-2. Only 5 career starts, 3 wins, 3 nice wins, including that Sir Barton on Preakness weekend to Pimlico. Pinned this one as a nice 3-year-old for Bob Baffert, but will have to kind of rebound from that 3rd place in the Matt win. And Blended Citizen also in here. Won the Peter Pan 2 starts back, was well beaten in the Belmont Stakes, but again has shown some talent in the career. Draft pick for Peter Urton comes in with a couple of wins, including the affirmed last time out. King Cause had shown some ability for Doug O'Neill in the first few starts and eventually broke the maiden in the 3rd career start. The 2 stakes tries not as much though. But as I say, Axeman, Blended Citizen, and maybe a little draft pick as well. Bob Baffert also has Once on Whiskey, but there's only 3 career starts there. But again, we've seen Baffert before get horses to kind of turn the corner and get very, very good as summertime approaches and we get into it. So I suppose Once on Whiskey also interesting in here. Los Alamitos will go off at 4:28 Pacific time. That'll be about 7:30 our time locally. At Delaware, again, the Delaware handicap for them, that goes off at about 5:30 tomorrow, the Delaware handicap. Nice field in here. Farrell, Farrell is entered in the field of 9, but I thought I read Farrell is going to take a pass, but keep your eyes on that. Teresa Z comes in off a win in the prep stake for this down at Delaware. Sneaky Betty in good form right now, ran third actually behind Teresa Z last time in that prep race. Mopetism for Doug O'Neill, tried the Fleur de Lis last time and ran an okay 3rd. Probably fits with this bunch and should be competitive. Coming in from Thistledown for Luch, Ron Paolucci, Proper Discretion. Unbridled Mo off a 3rd place finish most recently in the Phipps, but had won the Apple Blossom before that for Todd Pletcher. A Late, who showed the really nice promise early in the career and then kind of wasn't living up to it and got back on her game, mid-season last year. Hasn't been seen since a 4th in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, but it's going to be interesting to see in her 4-year-old debut what A Late can do tomorrow. Furiously Kissed also. Not a best effort again for Ron Paolucci. Could be a player in here. Nice field in the Delaware handicap. And I'll also toss out at Delaware tomorrow the Kent, if I have that. The Kent. And I wanted to, here we go. The Kent, I wanted to toss that because, again, it's that subdivision I talk about as being a lot of fun. 3-year-olds on the turf. And Untamed Domain back in there for our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds. Returned to the turf, 2 starts back in the American turf. Ran a good 2nd behind Murad down at Churchill. Followed up in the Pennine Ridge. Ran 4th behind Catholic Boy and Analyze It, who clearly have turned out to be on the top of that subdivision of 3-year-olds on the turf. So I think the 4th behind them was okay. We'll see what Untamed Domain does in a very nice competitive field of 9 in the Kent tomorrow at Delaware Park. So Delaware, LaSalle, Indiana Grand, some nice stakes racing around the country on Saturday to keep your eyes on right here on OTB TV. Speaking of keeping your eyes on OTB TV, don't forget, we're off and running. Handicapper Support kicked things off at 9 o'clock this morning. This is our first edition of Racing Across America, but we just continue from here. On the weekend, 9 o'clock tomorrow, Handicapper Support. 10 o'clock, tune in. Our friend Brian Nadeau kicks off his brand new Saturday morning show, Saturdays at the Spa. I believe Jonathan Thomas will be on board. John Panagot, who is now the agent for Javier Castellano, and Mike McAdam from the Schenectady Gazette. So a nice lineup to kick things off on Saturdays. And Sunday morning, 9 o'clock, the Handicapper Support. And Loose on the Lead is back on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock with Steve Bick and myself. Although we have to, as I said earlier, we have to check with Bick because it's his wife's birthday, and so he wasn't sure whether he was going to get a free pass. But we'll see if we can twist his arm and get him in here. If not, we kick things off officially next weekend with opening weekend anyway. But all of that coming up this weekend. Do want to remind you, Tuesday night, there's a fun seminar down at the Times Union Building, the end of Wolf Road. We'll be taking a look at the Saratoga meet, a nice Saratoga preview. It kicks off at 5:30 on Tuesday. I'll be on the panel. Tim Wilkin from the Times Union. Richard Migliori will be there. Larry Colmus is a possibility, but Tom Durkin will be joining us as well. So lots of ideas about handicapping the Saratoga meet. Lots of stories, I'm sure, from Migliori and Tom Durkin, both who can weave a good yarn, true yarn, as it were. Lots of good true stories from those guys who have been around the game. And so you'll have some laughs and get some good information. And it should be a lot of fun. That's Tuesday night, again, the Times Union Building, this Tuesday, 5:30 in the evening. We'd love to see you down there. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. It's been fun kicking things off here on our opening day. Official opening day at Saratoga, still 1 week away, next Friday. But again, morning programming all weekend long here on the network. Tune in. We are underway at Saratoga. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy all the racing this afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America has been brought to you by CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today. Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com. Woodbine Racetrack. Pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border. And the new Capital OTB mobile app. Wager anytime, any place, anywhere. Download it free from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Finish, which is won by Made Up, who lands her third straight win. Made Up held on from Phantasmic and White Chocolate. The three of them were clear of Deweyla.
Yeah, they certainly were, John. When you get a filly in form, there's no knowing how high they can go, and she really is on a roll, this filly Made Up. Just beat my one, though, Phantasmic.